Hello, and we are live. Thank you everyone for tuning in. Today with me I have uh, my friend Akshat. Akshat, you want to give us a brief intro, basically?
Hi Robert. Hi everyone. Thank you for having me. Uh, Glad to be here. I'm the founder of BlogVault, Malcare, WP Remote. So these are some of our products, and now Airlift. So these are some of our products. We have been in WordPress space for a long time. We deal with backup, security, updates, yeah, and now performance. So yes, again, happy to be here.
Thanks. Now, we're really happy. Just a bit of trivia before we start. Me and Akshat are actually, we both work in WordPress, but we are also friends on a personal level. I've known Akshat. We've met at WordCamp Europe in Sofia, Bulgaria in 2014. That's how far back we go. In fact, back then I still had my full-time job, and WordPress was kind of like a hobby slash project. In fact, I met Akshat through the years, and of course, I think you were just starting as well, Akshat. I think with
So
BlogVault.
I had been doing it full time for a couple of for a year and a half, and I was just getting the sense of the community. So this was like the first time I just started traveling to attend the WordCamps, and first WordCamp Europe, WordCamp Europe in Sofia. Actually, I still remember it was such an incredible experience, uh, and
Yeah.
meeting and those friendships in from Sofia have a lot of those friendships have stayed.
The same here. Like I get to know more people every year, but yeah, like through for those who do not know, like WordCamp Europe is it. It takes place once a year. This year is going to be in Basel, Switzerland. It's just basically like a conference for WordCamp enthusiasts, for WordPress enthusiasts in Europe. And yeah, as we said, like me and Dakshat have been following WordCamp since 2014, and we've made a lot of friends since then. Hello, everyone who's joining, Rudolph, John, and a few other ones. Thank you for joining in. A quick reminder, we do these live streams every week on Thursday at 4 p.m. Central European Time or 11 a.m. Eastern Time. You can ask us any questions during the live sessions. We will answer them as we go along, or if you are watching a recorded session, feel free to email us at questions@mapers.com. So I'd like to start. Akshat, as Akshat said, he is the founder of a number of products, online services, BlogVault for backup, Marker, a security protection for websites, Airlift, a uh, performance service, and also WP Remote, which is like for agencies to manage multiple websites and stuff. Let's jump into security first, because that's definitely something we have in common. Like a few weeks ago, Patch Second Secure released the state of WordPress security, and they said like the number one source of hacks are still like authentication issues, and second are like vulnerabilities, outdated software. Like, do you see the same kind of like common attack vectors on malware, or like maybe do you have a different take on it?
I think vulnerabilities continue to be number one source of sites getting hacked. Our data very clearly, like our firewall data, shows that vulnerabilities continue to be the number one source of sites getting hacked. Authentication, there are lots of authentication attacks, but the success rate is not as high as we think, uh, uh, as people worry ought to be. But number one source, in our opinion, is vulnerabilities. It just is insane the number of sites which are outdated, which still use really old plugins, outdated plugins, and those sites get hacked all the time.
It's very interesting. I think could it be maybe authentication? Nowadays, of course, there's a bit more awareness when it comes to password managers using strong passwords, 2FA and other solutions. But maybe a lot of people still have, I don't know, as you were saying, like some old plugin because maybe of some legacy software they cannot update. Do you think what do you think like the
Yeah,
challenge?
actually, it's a very interesting point that you brought up. In fact, plugin like yours, your two-factor authentication plugin is one of the reasons why sites are not getting hacked because of authentication. Let me put
Okay.
it this way: that
No,
because people are following better authentication practices,
I see. Yeah.
those so people are no longer setting up passwords like QWERTY UI. People are setting up two-factor authentication. A lot more people are doing that stuff, The default username is no longer admin, makes it slightly more difficult to, meaning it's still possible to guess it, like it's not that difficult, and people do find the username fairly, like it happens a lot more often than people would have guessed. But but the fact is that the awareness for passwords has improved significantly, and you do see people being a lot more mindful of the passwords that they select. I think, and plugins like two-factor authentication play a very important role. So it is a survivor bias thing also, that we just feel that, oh yeah, because that issue has been solved fairly well, that we don't see uh, that many sites getting hacked
Good.
because of it.
Via Marker and other products, you of course offer like hack cleaning. So I'm sure like you have a few conversations with customers. Like, do you know like why? Because it's true. It's very common. People are still running very old plugins and stuff. Like, what are the most common reasons? Like, why would people still run? I don't know, like a very old version of WooCommerce or any other plugin? Like, is there like a top three or top two reasons that people typically run old software, or just that they forget about it? Like, what do you think?
It just, that's not their main business. It's just like it is not their main business. So, and the plugin updates is, it's never ending. It's a problem. That's the
Yeah,
fact.
I see.
Like every time you open it, you update it once, and then you open it again, and it's going to have, like, there are those 20 plugin updates again. So it's a never ending thing. So, and it requires a cadence, it requires understanding, and sites break. And once someone has a broken site because of an update, then they are super careful. With our visual regression testing, we have data which shows that, uh, on not on average, but a very large number of sites, they can break up to 4 times a year
Okay,
during updates. Like,
interesting.
and it doesn't mean like you don't see the widescreen update, but you are seeing some level of breakage happening during updates up to 4 times a year.
Wow, interesting. So if you have one site, if you're kind of like a small business owner, you have one site, it's definitely a bit easier to have staging websites and stuff. But let's say you're an agency, you have 100+ websites, or if some agencies have even thousands. Um, you have a tool, WP Remote, which help, of course, like centralize and manage all these websites. Like, how do you usually like, or does WP Remote offer any tools? Like, because as you said, like websites break, updates break. So let's say an agency has 100 websites. How do they go about making sure, okay, there's this plugin update which is used on 90 of these websites to ensure like, hey, it's worth updating. It's not going to give us problems. Like, are there any tools or
So, so the thing is, we can say there are best practices, but also agencies, it's super difficult to classify, saying that all agencies follow one practice. We have seen which agencies which are like as careful as doing one website at a time, doing it carefully, testing it, and they don't even charge their clients that much. So it sometimes shocks me the amount of effort they put in and the diligence they have. And there are other agencies who put all 100 websites on auto updates once a month, once a day. They put it on daily, and and they wing it, like, and it works for some reason, but also because I think they're a lot more in control of their stack, and
Mhm.
they're okay. They understand. I think the clients also understand that the amount of money they pay them, that they're okay to roll back from a backup if something breaks. They don't need the perfect testing. They are, or they will use a visual regression testing. If it breaks, they will be like, okay, quickly let me roll back. I'm fine. These are not mission critical websites, so I can live with a few minutes of downtime, and that's fine. But in the ideal situation, if you have a half important website, then you should ideally spin up a staging site, uh, do the updates there, do visual regression testing thoroughly. Only once you are happy with the results, when all the sites, all the pages you have got stable results, that is when you repeat the process on live. It's not even that at that time you don't copy the plug updates to live. You repeat the process on live. It's almost like how we do it in software development. In software development, we we repeat the process. We don't, like, from staging. It's not that we push from staging. No, we redeploy live afresh. So that's the process, and you have to do thorough testing on staging, and then you go through the live and make sure that you are monitoring the system. So that's the process. And what as products, we enable agencies to, like, basically streamline the whole process and get that visibility, so that if we say something goes wrong, then you know it's gone wrong.
I see. Interesting. So, yeah, you mentioned a very important point, because even us, like from the people I know, I don't think I know. Maybe I know a few, but almost no one pushes from staging to live. That you you do it on staging and then you repeat the process. Like, especially again, like talking about agents, because for us maybe it's not a problem because you have one side, two sides, but for agencies who are managing large number of, like, are there, like, or maybe I don't know, it's still very early to say, but maybe in the future will we see maybe AI that can help with these things, or like with products like WP Remote, like
So
are there any tools which we can, yeah, kind of like help streamline this process more?
yeah, so the history of this is very interesting. So if you go back, and a very good friend of mine, Nathan Tyler, he built the first product called Staging Pilot. I don't know if you know Nathan Tyler of Staging Pilot. Now he's running a different product, not in WordPress space, but he has a couple of WordPress plugins still, actually. Yeah. So, and he sold his company, so which basically created a staging site, did the updates there. I think he was still very early in the game. So the tooling was not in place. They did the visual regression. I think the visual regression was also the browser. Doing the visual regression was not that straightforward. So they built that tool. They got acquired by Pantheon. It got carried forward to some extent. I think then WP Engine built their own version, but they acquired another product called Perfect Dashboard, which in theory had the same value proposition.
Okay.
Though, if you ask me, none of these products, and we initially thought that these guys lived up to the promise, and as we dug deeper into it, we saw that in theory they are supposed to work, but the false positive ratio is so high that they became unusable, or they in their current form they are unusable.
Mhm.
And um, and that's what and that's where we have actually spent so much time working on it, and where we have what we call sandbox updates, where we'll create a staging site automatically. We'll pull in the updates. We'll pull in the updates uh, automatically. We'll do the updates on the staging. We'll do the visual regression testing. Again, the visual regression testing, we've spent, you won't believe, like, I can't, sometimes I am like, what the hell, am I stupid that I spent like 2 years, 2 man years of effort building a visual regression system? Because we had to reduce the false positives. Websites are dynamic, there are sliders, there
Yes.
are ads, there are pop-ups, lazy loaded images, there are dynamic elements. So taking a screenshot, a stable screenshot, is incredibly difficult. And then all of those add noise, and you cannot trust whether, hey, so if I tell you that, okay, your website is, there is a visual regression change, now you can't trust whether actually has the website broken or not broken. So effectively at that time you're manually reviewing it, and by then it's too late, like you're spending effort.
Mm.
So we had to build a lot of technology to solve this problem, but nonetheless we have built this tech to actually make it easy to do these updates with a click of a button on a staging, and we will tell you if it is working perfectly, and then it gets automatically replayed on the live.
Okay, it's actually interesting. I never knew you provide such. It makes life much easier because, as I said, like if you have 100 websites at least, yeah, you're not going to do it manually on staging. So at least you are helping automating the process. It's funny because I always remember you, like you always in your business you always wanted to go to these kind of like edge cases and solve them. I remember we met in San Francisco once because I was there for my other work
Yeah,
at RSA, and you told me like when you decided to launch Malker, and you told me like,
yeah,
oh, okay, well, like malware, like you see a lot of false positives and stuff. Like it's a simple mathematical equation. Like, and the same
Yeah.
now, you have some sort of like I think you even do automatic cleaning, or most of the process
Yes, a
is.
lot of it is automatic. So again, we approach it in a very mathematical manner because if you're managing 100 websites, our largest agency manages 3,000 websites.
Wow.
So 3,000 plus now, I think 3,100 on our platform. Now, if we tell you there's malware and if we are wrong, then if you know there's zero margin for error,
Of course, because
basically.
you're not going to.
Like so, yeah, and so we have to be super accurate. Uh, False positive or false negative, both are almost unacceptable. I won't say that they are nothing is perfect. These are super complex technology, but building them is non-trivial, and especially with high accuracy. Like building some level where you don't have to promise accuracy is okay. It's actually one of our products. It our products is about edge cases. It's we spend days like you have engineers working on activity log for years because the edge cases, the performance optimization, and those things are non-trivial to
It's
problems to solve. That's what makes software difficult. That's what makes it valuable also, and and that's the commitment it requires. So yeah, we have been fully committed to it. So all our products, backup, security. So Malcare, BlogVault. Like when I started BlogVault, I think I told you, right? I thought it's like a 6 week project at best, at worst. I'm a smart engineer. How difficult can it be to back up a WordPress website? And even today, we find ways of improving backups. You would not believe. And because the number of edge cases that exist is immense,
yeah.
and it just comes down to that. No, like activity log like that you have, it's so difficult to like. People have websites hosted on some of the worst, like most underpowered web hosts out there, and now they want to track every change that is happening on the website. And how do you do so sitting on like the most underpowered server with no database? And I'm sure you have burnt a lot of
Of
midnight
course.
oil solving those problems.
Yes. Yes. No, no, definitely, definitely. It's actually, I always tell my team kind of thing. Like I feel sometimes like, but most vendors, don't get me wrong, like do a very good job. But it's always like, I always feel like most people stop at 95%, and we have to
Hmm.
like dig a bit deeper. Yeah, the last 5% most probably is the hardest, the one where you
Yeah.
spend most resources in terms of time and late nights and everything. But yeah, usually it pays off, because as you're saying, like I remember, as I said, like back in San Francisco, you were telling me, and yeah, after a few years, I remember, yeah, like uh, definitely had very, very good results, because we see it in your numbers and stuff, And even with BlogVault, uh, another bit of trivia, I moved to the Netherlands 6 years in October of 2018, I think, yeah. And we're changing web hosts. I was already using BlogVault back then. We still use it. And yeah, and I remember like sitting, because I was on my own, like looking for a house and stuff before my family flew here. And I remember sitting in a laundromat, basically, and just migrating web hosts during this 1 hour waiting for my laundry to wash using BlogVault. And voila, like just, so yeah. So yeah, in fact,
So we are both actually. So this is the thing, right? We both have been friends. We both have used each other's products. Like one of the stories that has done really well on our blog is, and I think I shared it with you, right? Where activity and sorry, like we I think the audience must be wondering what the hell is going on. These guys are promoting each other's products, but it
but
is just a picture of our friendship. Like one fine day, one of the pages of our blogs goes. I think I told you one of our key pages one of our feature pages goes missing, and we're wondering what the hell happened. And I think do you remember the person who was leading marketing at in my team, Pritesh? He must
yes,
have reached out because he was like, so we used activity log. We had WP activity. I think you used to call it audit log that time.
yes, WP security, yes, correct, yeah,
The
yeah,
WP
correct.
security audit log that time.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
we had that plugin, and we looked through the logs, and we found out that someone from my team had moved a page and to private or hidden or something. And had we not known that, we would never have figured out what the hell is happening.
Of
and
course,
why the
especially
pages.
yeah, when you have so many pages and stuff. Yeah, I mean, like, yeah, people might think we are promoting each other's products, but the reality is, like, honestly, like, I don't recommend many products, but I happily recommend products which I use and I've been happy with. And yeah, quite frankly, like BlogVault,
Yeah,
even
friendship also
yeah,
is like this,
exactly, yeah.
And like you mentioned San Francisco, right?
Hmm.
Uh, the
In
RSA
fact,
conference. You come for
it
the
wasn't
RSA
the
conference.
WordPress thing. Yeah, it wasn't the
It was
WordPress thing.
yeah, you used to come for the RSA conferences, if I'm right.
Yeah, exactly. I was at the RSA conference. I messaged you like, "Hi." Most probably sent me an email like, "Hey, I'm San Francisco. You were there
Yeah,
visiting families. Let's meet." And it wasn't even WordPress thing. So yeah.
yeah.
In fact, yeah. What we're talking about these things, because you also mentioned, like, like you've seen a lot of things, like, web hosts, maybe database. Like, actually, to maybe we can split this into questions. Like, first of all, like, how important is the role of a web host? Like, I mean, of course, like, it depends on what website and the scale, and there's the obvious performance and stuff. But when it comes to maintaining a website, like, using a service like BlogVault or Open, like, how important is the web host? Yeah, to have, like, maybe a standard structure, a certain standard, and a certain, I don't know, uptime and reliability. Like, what role does a web host play in
So I'm ambivalent about it. Sometimes people actually people expect a lot from the web host, but I also think that people don't expect enough from the web host. So
can you
this
expand?
is
Yeah,
the
yeah.
dichotomy. This is the dichotomy, right? So if you ask them what is wrong with them, they attribute everything wrong to with the website to the web host. Every single thing, right?
Mhm.
Every single thing that they've got on their website, they attribute it. Everything that goes wrong, you'll see, and it doesn't matter if like they plug in something is wrong with their plugin, the security. There's a vulnerability. We spoke about how sites get hacked because of vulnerability. You got a weak password. You didn't use two-factor authentication. You got hacked. They'll be like, my web host is responsible for it. And
Yeah, I've
in
seen it.
some ways, now you can be like, yeah, web host can be responsible because web host is uh, at the end of it, web host has to understand what they're offering, right? What web. But nonetheless, there is a fine line, and WordPress as a platform obviously comes it's a double-edged sword, and you're going to cut yourself with it. Having said this, I, I feel managed WordPress hosting, the promise it came with, if you go back 14, 15 years ago, I don't think it has lived up to the promise. I really feel that they will. I feel that they went into, okay, yeah, I'll give you slightly better performance, I'll give you caching, I'll give you a few more tools out there, I'll give you backups. Maybe I'll throw in a Cloudflare or something like that. And they do some things more than this, but they have not gone in, they have not spent, they have not gone in to solve the 95% plus. And that's where I feel a sense of disappointment with especially managed WordPress hosts, especially the the few really big ones that have really benefited or that have created the industry for in some ways. I think we should have much higher expectation from them.
Yeah, yeah. I think, yeah, good point. Maybe, yeah, because it's managed hosting. Yeah, there's that fine line, like, where does the web host responsibility stops and where does the user responsibility starts? As you were saying, like, sometimes I see it. I think everyone experiences, not just the web hosts. Like, sometimes, I don't know, like, it's even between plugins or teams and plugins, people just start posting on everyone's forums just to get an answer. Like, yeah, it's maybe, and that's, quite frankly, that's, I think, where the role of agencies come in. Like, of course, WordPress is easy to use, so of course it makes it way more accessible. But yeah, like, it takes much more than building a website to maintain a website. Like, that's why there are products like ours. That's why there are products like yours, because it's not just about install it once and forget it, kind of thing.
Yeah, and agencies, I think the whole care plans industry that has taken off in the past few years. It tells you that why the need for it exists, and the value provided by the care plan by agencies is super important. It comes at a cost. But all things said and done, the cost, like I said, most of these agencies are not. they're not charging sufficiently. They spend a lot of time and effort and care into maintaining and managing these websites regularly.
I see. Yeah, yeah. In fact, and yeah, quite frankly, that's why there are services like WP Remote, of course, to help you manage.
Yeah.
I mentioned, like as you said, like you have like big customers with thousands of websites. Like what are, as an agency, like what are the most common, let's say, the top two challenges that agencies face, kind of thing, and yeah, like where WP Remote products like WP Remote come in and help, kind of thing.
So I think making sure that the business runs efficiently, because at the end of it you can only charge. If you see on the average, I think Admin Bar had a report. Uh, on the average, between $50 and $100 per month is what an agency is able to charge around the world for all the updates that they and everything else that they provide.
Mm.
Uh, so being able to do it efficiently and doing it well, that is number one challenge, and that tooling continues to be really important. And I'm not talking the business side. The business side of obviously getting customers
Yeah,
and
just yeah.
keeping them happy is super important, but this aspect of just managing websites is non-trivial. It comes with a huge responsibility. That is really important. The second part, uh, the second part is security. Obviously, is being in being that industry. That's the industry we come from, so we hear a lot more of it.
Yes.
But it is one that the agencies are very ill-equipped to deal with. It's a fact, because the understanding, the noise, there's so much noise that exists in the ecosystem, and there are so few resources. Do you still write the blogs yourself, or I know for the longest time you used to write these really amazing short articles yourself? Are you still writing them, or
I some point sometimes, but no, we have like
okay?
better
But yeah,
professionals. But yeah,
right? And I'm sure it causes a lot of angst when you are researching and you must be
yes,
writing those. There's so much, and not willful misinformation, but there's so much misinformation out
yes.
there, and then it's super difficult to understand what is right, what is wrong as an agency, and then you are seeing all of these issues happening. So I feel that's one of the big challenges where,
Yes.
and which is why, going back to our patch stack report, they throw the number 500,000 websites got hacked. That's
Mm.
that's just bull crap. Like, I'm sorry, pardon my French, but there's no maths. There's nothing like it's this is almost irresponsible.
To,
Uh,
to be honest, a few years ago, we made the decision because like scaremongering works, like, oh, 1 million websites hacked, oh, 10 million, whatever, like 5 million websites vulnerable, whatever. We took the, and it's common not just in WordPress, by the way, the security industry in general is very common. And a few years ago, we took a cautious decision and said, like, listen, rather than saying like, oh, I don't know, like you need our plugin because you will get hacked, let's actually promote the benefits. Like, hey, by the way, why don't you do, you can get it. So we're trying to be more positive. So it's a common problem. I know, I know. Yeah. I have another question for you, but before we go to the next question, a quick reminder, like if you have any questions, send them to us. We're going to answer them live. And yeah, if you are watching a recorded version, send us your questions at questions@mappress.com. We have a question, Akshat. Keep it a bit short. Like, what should I consider when choosing a hosting provider in terms of security and management? I think maybe we can give 2-3 points. What do you think? Like, what?
okay, again, so uh, that's a very tough question. Simply because uh,
There are so many. First of all, so many options and so
there are
many.
so many ways, there's so many factors to consider. What does even security mean to you?
Yeah.
That's the question to ask, right? What level of security do you have? So, for example, and I'm giving some examples. So I'm sure there are other examples. Let's talk about Kinsta, right?
Mhm.
Kinsta has SOC 2 compliance. Now, what? How does it help? Is that a good thing? Is that a bad thing? Is that a good thing for your WordPress security? Is that a bad thing for your WordPress security? Now, actually, I think it's a great thing to host with Kinsta because it's SOC 2 compliant. Why is it a great thing? Because it means if you're SOC 2 compliant, you have very good internal practices, right? It means that you have a sense of excellence. But does it
Exactly.
mean your websites are more secure? Not
Very good point.
necessarily,
Very good point. Yeah,
right?
I think the at the end of the day, it's I think you highlighted a very good point in the beginning. It really depends on what you intend to do with your website. What is it like? If you have a simple hobby website, I don't know, not even selling anything, just a hobby website about some club you have in your local village, which is just mostly plain static content. Yeah, most probably a compliance that Kinsta doesn't really apply for you. But if you have a fully blown e-commerce solution, then of course, yeah, you're looking for something different, right?
Yes, but even when you say, actually, I'll differ a bit there, right? Obviously, in that case, it matters. But even if you have a simple website, if you see a SOC 2 compliance somewhere, then you know that these guys are aiming for excellence. Now, you might have the budget or not have the budget for it. And it doesn't mean that your website is more secure with them, like and your traditional plugin security. But at least you know that in terms of underlying infrastructure, their underlying infrastructure is going to be secure, much more secure. Because as much as we say that we have seen websites getting hacked because of plugin, we have also seen websites getting hacked because their underlying servers are not secure. If you go back maybe 10 years ago, there's a very big HostGator vulnerability. Actually, there was a HostGator vulnerability. There have been cPanel vulnerabilities. Websites have been hacked for all of these reasons. There has been and there have been like so many VPS level vulnerabilities issues, and all of those cause the sites to get hacked. Now, is that the biggest reason why things happen? No, but the fact is that it's still a factor you need to consider.
Yeah.
Now, but it's not number one. It's about the approach, right? So, at a SOC 2 compliant place, again, I'm just giving an example of how security is a lot more complex, lot more thing. But now, Kinsta can also misuse their SOC 2 compliance. They can be like, hey, I'm SOC 2 compliance, your websites are more secure with me. Does it mean your
Yes.
sites will never get hacked there? No, that's not true at all. In
Exactly.
fact, they do mention that we are SOC 2 compliant, and they imply that your sites are more secure there. But if a vulnerability comes in, your sites are as likely to get hacked there than at a $2 web host.
Yeah, I agree. I think like with everything else, web host, plugins, themes, and any other product, not just WordPress, it's a question of like if you're interested in let's talk about web host because this time we're talking about web host. It's a question of like doing a bit of research, checking some reviews online, like how fast their support is. I mean, like in all fairness, like every software, every service, none is perfect, none of them are perfect, and you will always see some occasional one-star review or someone complain. But like, what is the general feel? Like, usually, is this company professional? Are they delivering? Like how many issues they have, like, and stuff like that. No, it's just reading a bit and educating yourself. Since we talked a bit about security agencies, W promote. I have a very interesting question, like because I've seen it in the past. So agencies, and especially you with W remote, I'm sure you've seen a bit of use cases. It's a very common question because, like, as an agency, and you have 100 to 200 whatever websites, you want to give your customer, your clients, the freedom to run their website, maybe to manage it, but maybe you don't want to give them the freedom, like, to update plugins or install plugins. So like I know of agencies actually where they allow the client admin access as well, but the agency has admin access as well. But I know actually agencies where I say, listen, we are the admins, you have to pay, I don't know, a monthly retainer or whatever, and we manage your website. You are only able to create new pages, delete pages, like taking care of the content side. But when it comes to updating plugins, the teams, like in your opinion, like I know there's no one solution fits all, but like what's your opinion on this? Like, what if you had an agency roughly, like how? And I don't know if maybe there are tools like WP Remote which help with this. I don't just yeah. What's your
Yeah,
opinion?
no, so actually, this is again, activity log is where the activity log plugin plays a very important role there, and you would have seen one of the big use cases of activity log plugin is where an agency uses activity logs to
Yes.
avoid the terrible conversation where finger pointing is avoided because a customer will go in there, they will going to edit something, they're going to delete a plugin, install something, and then they're going to be like, my website broke, you did something. And then they look at the agency goes, looks at the activity log, and they're like, okay, fine, look, you logged in from this IP address, which is clearly your IP address, uh, and you did it on this date, and here you went and installed a plugin. And vast majority of WordPress users are very small businesses doing. They want to run their own business. They don't like. Frankly, there's this whole category of people which we often don't see. They are happy even having their content updates being done by the agency.
Yeah.
So the agency is not only the WordPress person or WordPress uh, expert, but it's also their marketing expert, their SEO expert, and everything else to do with it. So so yeah, in when that happens, then it is imperative for the agency to just lock it down. You don't want the person to go in there and shoot themselves in the foot, because once in a while it will happen. The downside obviously is you need uh, and this is one of the trickiest parts, where agencies, the question it comes often comes is, should you offer hosting themselves or not?
Yeah.
And the risk is, what happens, there's the if what's the bus uh, the tragic bus incident, like, in case, so how do you prepare for that? Because if something some mishap were to happen to you, you don't want your clients to suffer. Obviously it's a very bad situation, but you don't want to be in this situation where your clients are don't know what to do with their website, where the web host, they are left in a lurch. So if they don't have access
Yeah.
and you are unavailable for whatever reason, then it becomes a challenge. So there's this fine line, and where there are people who like to have the stickiness of being a web host and stickiness of not having sharing any access, and then there are those who say that no, I'm okay with agent the clients, and my clients like to have control. It's one, as you mentioned at the beginning, one size cannot fit all in this
Yeah.
case.
It really depends on the type of clients you have. I mean, like if you have like
It really depends on the type of clients you have and the kind of business that you're running.
exactly, yeah. In fact, since we're talking about this, like where the fence should be, and the same with web hosts. Like someone, John Penserati, thank you for your comment. He posted a comment: web hosts should also be more transparent with the MU plugins deployed in production to users. Often tweaks at the level aiming for security do more harm than good, raising chances for conflicts. Yes, a bit of a controversial comment, but yeah, like I think it's also understandable from web hosts. Not to some of I know some web hosts do have, I mean, have MU plugins, but it's also again the result of what you're saying. Like most users don't know, like, where is my responsibility? What is the responsibility of web host?
Yeah,
So many web hosts kind of thing
that's a
are,
great question, John.
yeah,
By the way, like, it is a great question. But the web host is, where do you draw the line? Where does the web host draw the line? And web hosts also are trying to add more value-added services. So as much, when I say that, hey, the managed WordPress hosting has not lived up to the promise, they're also trying out different things. It's not that they're sitting on their they're sitting with doing nothing, and they are trying a few things out. Many of them, like yourself, John, we disagree with. Some of their approaches are not great. Some of the MU plugin practices are not great, and they create a lot of conflict. But there are also a lot of customers out there who, for example, I think the earliest one I can remember is WP Engine used to bundle the limit login as a MU plugin
yes,
all the way back to 2011, 12. I don't remember. I think John, you might. I don't know if you remember, but that was one of the early ones who would bundle limit login plugin, and you could see, especially at that time frame, that was a lifesaver. Your sites would get hacked very easily because of brute force attacks, and a limit login. It was a very simple plugin. Went into a MU plugin, simple, and it solved things. Things have gotten more complex. People have. Uh, I don't know. Like, I think SiteGround does not do MU plugins. I think SiteGround just installs the plugin by default, which again, positives, negatives. There are challenges. Like, what if you don't install it as a MU, and what if you install it as a bundled plugin? Now, where do you? To me, actually, that is even more trickier.
Exactly. Yeah.
So you
Yeah.
have to, like, there are challenges because now that thing is stuck in your website forever.
Exactly. Yeah. I think this goes back. It's like almost a full circle. Like which web host or which service or which plugin work for you. I mean, like we're lucky that there's ample of different a good number of solutions available out there. And yeah, like it's impossible. I'm sure you can tell from your services or from our plugins that whatever you do, you can never keep every user happy. Like some things
Yeah.
that we do work for someone, they don't work for someone else, and competitors work for someone, don't work for someone else. And same with your services. Like you will always find, like someone who, yeah. So it's just a question of, and yeah, as you said, actually, that's why it's good to before you move host, especially hosting, because it's not a big deal nowadays. As I said, like with BlogVault, I migrated the website in a laundromat, but yeah, like it's you don't change it every day, kind of thing. So before you choose a web host or whatever or any other service, like do a bit of research. Usually, it doesn't take long. Just need an hour. Just read a bit what's online, what's
Yeah,
killer for
and
things.
generally things, what has happened is the quality of web hosting has generally improved over time. That
Yeah.
is that has also happened. All things said and done, things have improved significantly. Uh, People are trying. They think some of the larger ones move at snail pace. Because again, they have a lot of backward compatibility to deal with. They I remember some of these, the changing of PHP versions, the kind of hoops they had to jump through, because some of the older PHP versions would cause a lot of pain, and the web host would. We've had conversations, being in the industry for such a long time, we've had those conversations with them and how they approach it. None of it is trivial, and they are wanting to take care of solving these problems, but but yeah, it's like you mentioned, it's none of unfortunately I have been hedging my answers everywhere. There's no, hey, this is the absolute answer, but that also is true for security. In fact, anyone who says anything insecure, the only absolute insecurity is there is no perfect security. Like if anyone says that you'll never get hacked, yeah, that guy
Yeah,
is lying. That's the
exactly.
only absolute. Everything else is
Yeah. Back at my first job, by the way, I used to work for a software company in 1999. We used to have the best security at the time because before we used to leave the office, we used to disconnect the internet connection.
yeah.
But back then, of course, it wasn't like today where everything is
Yeah.
available online. So it was
Yeah.
quite secure, at least at night, because
Yeah. No, it is like it's all secure until someone catches your guy and beats him up. So
yeah, exactly. I mean, these things happen. Yeah, yeah. Good. Just like for agencies, we talk a lot about agencies, of course, because especially through WP Remote and even your blog and stuff, like you cater for a lot of websites and stuff. Like, are there like what would you recommend like in terms of onboarding? Like typically, like would you recommend like having some sort of uh, template, a number of yeah, your own like number of plugins you should use? Like how would you approach it? Like you're an agency and you want to onboard every time like new websites every day you're onboarding 20, 30. Like are there any tools or yeah, services that help with these things?
like agencies have two approaches to this. The first approach is obviously websites that they build themselves, and it's almost like uh, as artisans, and I consider ourselves like agencies as artisans or people who love their craft. We have a toolbox, and we'll always have that toolbox with us, and we always start with that toolbox. So you will see that happening with agencies. So that you will have people who swear by their page builders, and they will swear by their forms, and they will swear by their entire stack.
Mhm.
Like from it's something which they have honed over time, and then they will carefully, and they learn about it, and then they try, and then they change one at a time carefully over time. But it's a stack that they build, and then they apply it to all their websites. So when I spoke about, like, there are people who are setting up, like, all websites are like they will update all websites blindly. They are super confident of their stack. They're
Makes
like, oh yeah, I understand this stack. It's all uniform. I understand it well enough. I can take care of things. Whereas, but there are others who, and Actually, every agency goes through this process where they get a client who comes with this website, which is a mess,
Yeah.
and they don't have the budget. You don't have the time to sit and unwind and fix everything.
Yeah. Yeah. So I think I have many more questions, but we'll wrap up soon. So that means like hopefully we'll have you again sometime soon. By the way, would like to have you on, again. But yeah, I think that roughly is a good message. Like having maybe like you by having a standard stack, you're always I don't know like a specific number of plugins, specific page builder and stuff, and sticking to the same web host for a number of years as an agency, you might find some limitations and you might have to maybe refuse some customers because you cannot exactly support what you need. But in terms of long-term maintenance and security, as you're saying, you're pretty much covered because if you've been using the same stack, the same set of plugins, same web host, same services for the last 5, 10 years. Of course, there will always be the exceptions, always in this, but overall, you pretty much
Until unless you deal with the problem. So, but the only downside, and this is where we come back the full circle with security, is the only downside is you can suffer the perfect storm. You'll get a vulnerability, something goes wrong, and then all your sites are dealing with the same problem on the same day.
yeah. Have you ever
And
seen?
that's yes, so many times. In fact, what got me interested in security was the perfect storm for one of our customers, where I don't know if you remember the Tim Thun vulnerability going back to
Yes,
2000.
yeah. It
That's
was
what
very big.
that was huge, right? I think
Yes.
that's what changed security for WordPress in a manner which nothing else did.
That was yeah, a big kind of like stepping stone to step up security in WordPress. Yeah, yeah,
Exactly, and that's what when I realized that, hey man, what's happening here? Maybe there is like we need to solve this problem because customers are suffering. They are suffering in a manner where it was different. It was life and death situation for them. It was like the businesses they've built over years, and they were struggling to keep that business alive because they were dealing with everything going wrong on the same day at the same, and they didn't know what to do with it.
yeah,
And that's when we decided, hey, what's going on with all the security plugins out there? Why is why is it not sufficient?
yeah. And that's why services such as yours, WP Remote, Market, are really good because they help you like centralize and automate as much. You can never automate it enough. It's always. I mean, it's impossible to automate everything, but where you can, yeah, like automate, standardize, and yeah, like it's the best way forward, quite frankly. Um, Thank you very much. As I said, actually, I have so many more questions, but that's an excuse to have you on again some other time. We'll definitely find another schedule something else in the future. Uh, is there anything else you'd like to mention? We missed something. We'll
No, no, thank you again. I loved our conversation. It's always good to hang out with you. Hopefully, we get a chance to. Unlike Italy, we hopefully this time around we get a chance to hang out properly. You had a booth last time. We've got. Are you putting up a booth this year?
yes, we're neighbors. We're
We're
neighbors.
neighbors. Okay,
Yes.
perfect. Okay.
So, oh yeah, we'll have some time definitely. We'll have
So
during the
then we'll
downtime.
definitely have time. We'll have
Exactly.
time. We'll have time to hang. So,
Especially during
uh,
the downtime, usually there's some downtime.
yeah,
We'll definitely sit down
yes,
for a chat. And if not, anyway, we should organize, schedule a lunch or something together and sit down
yes.
for an
Let's
hour.
let's do that. So we'll catch up and good. Thank you again for having me. Thank you again, everyone who attended and for the great questions.
Thanks. Thank you. Yeah, thank you everyone for following us. A quick reminder, we do this every Thursday at 4 p.m. Central European time and at 11 a.m. Eastern time. Today we had Akshat. We have some more interesting guests coming up. We'll have Akshat sometime soon as well because as I have said, I have so many more questions. The discussion was very interesting. And yeah, don't forget to subscribe and thank you again for watching. Thanks everyone. Thanks.
Thank you.